It was just after 11 p.m. when 27-year-old Rhiannon Whyte clocked out of her shift at the Park Inn Hotel in Walsall. She was a hard-working mother. Quiet, kind, just trying to make it home to her 5-year-old son. But she never made it to her train. Moments later, she was ambushed, stabbed 23 times with a screwdriver. 11 of those wounds pierced her skull, one reaching her brain stem. The man who did it? A hotel resident, a migrant named dntruecrimeuk, who followed her from work that night, and was later caught on CCTV, laughing and dancing in the car park, just hours after the attack. Tonight, we uncover one of Britain's most chilling modern crimes. A senseless murder that left a family shattered, and a nation asking the same haunting question. Why her? Before her name was etched into headlines and courtrooms, Rhiannon Whyte was simply known as Rhi. A 27-year-old hotel worker from Walsall, a daughter, a sister, and a devoted mother to a 5-year-old little boy who was her entire world. She was described by her family as quirky, full of life. You'd hear her laugh before you saw her walk into a room. Her sister Alex said she had a way of making everyone else happy, no matter how her own day had gone. Rhiannon was raised in a close-knit family, a home built on love, humor, and resilience. She was the middle child of 5, a sister, a best friend, and a constant support to her mother, Siobhan, who called her her rock. Even as a single mother, Rhiannon never let exhaustion dim her kindness. She worked long shifts at the Park Inn Hotel, often cleaning rooms and serving guests late into the night. But no matter how late it was, she always called home. Always checked on her little boy before bed. Friends say she dreamed of giving him a better life, a stable home, a car, maybe even a family holiday next summer. To her, that was success. Not money, not recognition, but love, laughter, and a little boy who knew his mom would always come home. She was the kind of person who would give you her last pound or her own coat in the rain. Her sister recalled one night, "It was pouring down and I didn't have a jacket. Rhi took hers off, gave it to me, and walked home soaked." That was Rhiannon, selfless to the very end. She'd been working at the Park Inn Hotel for just 3 months when she met the man who would end her life. To her, it was just another day, another late shift. But for reasons no one could yet understand, someone else had been watching her. Her biggest fear, one she often voiced to her family, was leaving her son alone in the world. That fear became her family's reality. The Park Inn Hotel in Walsall wasn't just a place for weary travelers. It was one of many hotels across the UK used to house asylum seekers, people waiting for a decision, a new beginning. Among them was a man named dntruecrimeuk, 27 years old, originally from Sudan. He had arrived in the UK only a few months earlier, by way of Germany, where he had already been granted legal residency. Meuk's story, at least on paper, was one of hardship. He claimed to have fled conflict in Sudan, making his way through Libya, Italy, Germany, before crossing the Channel to Britain in the summer of 2024. But behind those claims, investigators later discovered inconsistencies, different names, conflicting ages, and a record of a failed asylum claim in Germany. At 6'3", Meuk towered over most people in the hotel. Quiet, withdrawn. He rarely spoke to staff, and when he did, it was brief, almost detached. Some described him as polite, others as unsettling. On the day of the murder, staff noticed something unusual. Multiple female employees, including Rhiannon, reported feeling uncomfortable. Security had even been informed. Prosecutors later told the court that Meuk had been seen spookily staring at 3 women that afternoon. He watched them for long stretches of time, saying nothing, just sitting, observing. CCTV footage played in court showed him in the hotel cafe area, seated alone. He wasn't eating. He wasn't on his phone. He was just watching. Later that night, shortly before Rhiannon's shift ended, Meuk brushed past her near the hotel entrance. A seemingly harmless encounter, but prosecutors believe that's when his attention turned into fixation. Tyler English, a housing officer stationed at the hotel, told jurors that earlier that evening, Meuk had seemed withdrawn, almost sad, he said. But hours later, after Rhiannon was attacked, Tyler saw him again. This time his mood had changed completely. He was laughing, drinking, dancing. No one at the time thought much of it. A group of residents dancing in the car park, under the glow of police lights from down the road. But what no one knew, not yet, was that those same lights were flashing over the body of a young woman, fighting for her life less than a mile away. Meuk had been under the same roof as Rhiannon for weeks. They passed each other in corridors, shared the same cafeteria. the same air. But behind his quiet demeanor was something far darker, something no one could have predicted. A man capable of unspeakable violence, and a silence that would soon erupt into horror. It was a Sunday night, October 20th, 2024. The rain had been falling since evening, cold, steady, almost rhythmic. Inside the Park Inn Hotel, Rhiannon Whyte was finishing her shift. A long one as usual. Her co-workers would later describe her as tired but cheerful, joking about finally getting to go home to her little boy. Just after 11 p.m., CCTV cameras captured her walking toward the hotel's front doors. She clocked out, straightened her coat, checked her phone, probably a text to her mum, letting her know she was on her way. But what the footage also shows is a tall figure lingering by the doorway. It's dntruecrimeuk. He brushes past her as she steps outside, glancing just for a moment before disappearing behind her. She walks out into the rain. He waits, then follows. Rhiannon's journey home was familiar, a short walk to Biscott Stadium Station. She'd done it countless times. But that night, unknown to her, she wasn't alone. At 11:15 p.m., cameras caught her entering the small, dimly lit station. She stood under the shelter, waiting for her train to Walsall. Behind her, only seconds later, the same tall figure enters frame. Majek. There's no conversation, no sign of struggle. Just quiet, until the silence shatters. 11:20 p.m. A scream rips through the night, heard by passengers on a nearby train and a driver preparing for departure. CCTV cameras show frantic movement, a shadow collapsing inside the waiting shelter. The train driver rushes over and finds her, Rhiannon, collapsed, bleeding heavily. The weapon, a screwdriver. She had been stabbed 23 times. 11 of those wounds pierced her skull. She was still breathing, barely. Paramedics arrived within minutes. They worked on her there on the cold, wet platform as the rain mixed with blood on the concrete. Rhiannon was taken to Queen Elizabeth Hospital in Birmingham. Doctors fought for 3 days. But the injuries were too severe. Her brainstem had been fatally damaged. On October 23, 2024, surrounded by family, Rhiannon Whyte was pronounced dead. She was 27 years old. A young mother who just finished work, who wanted nothing more than to get home to her little boy. And a stranger, a man she barely knew, had taken that away. But what Majek did next would leave even seasoned detectives speechless. Just minutes after the attack, CCTV cameras captured a figure leaving the station. It was dntruecrimeuk. He walked away calmly, no rush, no panic. In his hand was Rhiannon's phone. Not far from the station, he stopped by a bridge and tossed the phone into the water. Then he walked into a nearby shop, bought a can of beer, and headed back toward the Park Inn Hotel, the very place where Rhiannon had just finished her shift. When he arrived, CCTV outside the hotel picked him up again. He changed his shoes, and then, under the glow of the car park lights, he started to dance. Just meters away, flashing blue lights lit the sky. Police cars and ambulances surrounded the station, where paramedics were fighting to save Rhiannon's life. And yet, in that same moment, Majek was seen smiling, drinking, and dancing. In court, prosecutors called it utterly callous. The contrast was almost too much to comprehend. As one life was slipping away, another seemed to be celebrating. A housing officer who knew Majek said later, "He seemed off that day, quiet, withdrawn. But after it happened, after the stabbing, he looked happy." That same night, police began tracing CCTV footage. It didn't take long to find him, the man in the video, the resident staying just a few rooms away from the very staff he'd been watching. When officers arrived at the hotel, they found him outside, still in the same jacket seen on CCTV, the same man from the platform. He didn't run. He didn't resist. He just smiled. One officer said he appeared almost detached from reality, as if he didn't understand what had happened. He told them, "I saw blue lights, but I didn't think it was a problem. I thought it was just music and dancing like usual." But when police checked his hands, they found something that removed all doubt. Under his fingernails, and on his palms, was Rhiannon's blood. And suddenly the dancing stopped. When investigators began piecing together the events of that night, the picture became painfully clear. Every second was accounted for, every step captured on CCTV. 11:10 p.m., Rhiannon leaves the Park Inn Hotel after her shift. 11:15, she arrives at Biscott Stadium Station. 11:17, dntruecrimeuk follows. 11:22, he leaves the platform, alone. Between those 5 minutes, everything happened. Investigators later confirmed he was the only person to enter and leave that platform during the time of the attack. And then came the forensics. Samples were taken from Majek's hands, jacket, and clothing. Beneath his fingernails, DNA. It matched Rhiannon Whyte. Her blood was also found on his jacket, on his sandals, and even on the silver ring he wore that night. The level of transfer left no room for chance. The pattern of spatter, the DNA concentration, all consistent with close, violent contact. Detectives traced his route through 21 separate CCTV cameras, from the station to the shop where he bought alcohol, and back to the Park Inn. The footage created a seamless timeline, a chain of evidence that told a story he couldn't escape. But even then, in court he denied everything. He told the jury he didn't remember what happened. He said he was drunk, confused, that he didn't realize anyone had been hurt. Prosecutors argued otherwise. They called his actions deliberate, brutal, and, as one put it, utterly devoid of mercy. The science, the cameras, the timeline, it all pointed in one direction. And soon, the jury would too. In the months that followed Rhiannon Whyte's death, detectives built an unshakable case, one that would soon be laid bare before a Birmingham Crown Court jury. Across the room sat Deng Cole Majek, 27 years old, originally from Sudan. For the first time since his arrest, the man seen on CCTV, calm, silent, and unflinching, now faced a murder charge. The prosecution began with a timeline so tight, so precise, that the defense had nowhere to hide. Yet when questioned, Majek insisted he was never there. He told the jury he wasn't at the station at all, that at the time of the attack he was outside the hotel. He denied that the man on CCTV was him, even though the footage showed the same frame, the same jacket, the same flip-flops, the same man seen dancing just hours later. Prosecutor Michelle Healy KC didn't hold back. She called his story laughable, saying the evidence against him was overwhelming. She reminded the jury of the blood found on his hands, on his jacket, and on the ring he wore that night. Every thread of that evidence, from DNA to CCTV, told the same story. But then came the moment that silenced the room. One of Rhiannon's closest friends, Emma Cowley, took the stand. That night, just before the attack, Rhiannon had been on the phone with her. Emma recalled how it began as a normal conversation. Two friends chatting as Rhiannon waited for her train. And then, suddenly, the call erupted into screaming. Emma testified, "I didn't understand what was happening. 1 second she was laughing, and the next, I heard her scream and the line went dead." It was that moment, the frozen silence that followed, that told the jury everything they needed to know. After days of testimony, CCTV reviews, and forensic evidence, the judge gave his final directions. The jury retired to deliberate. It didn't take long. In less than 2 hours they returned. The verdict, unanimous. Guilty of murder. As the words were read aloud, Majek showed no visible reaction. He stood still, emotionless, while behind him, members of Rhiannon's family wept. For them, justice had been served. But no verdict could undo what had been taken. A daughter, a sister, and a young mother who never made it home. In the days after the attack, Rhiannon Whyte's family kept vigil by her hospital bed, praying for a miracle that never came. Her mother, Siobhan Whyte, never left her side. She told reporters, "I held her hand for 3 days until she passed." She described those hours as both the longest and the shortest of her life. Time suspended between hope and heartbreak. When the machines finally stopped, the world seemed to stop with them. For Siobhan, it was the moment no mother should ever face. Saying goodbye to a child she had once rocked to sleep. Her sister, Alex Whyte, was the one who carried the weight of the next impossible task. She told the court, through tears, "I had to tell her 5-year-old son that his mom was never coming home." That single sentence silenced the courtroom. Alex later said that her nephew still asks when his mummy will wake up, that he still sleeps with one of her scarves, because it smells like her perfume. At the hospital, the family made Rhiannon a promise. To live the way she wanted them to carry her love, her laughter, and her light forward. It was all they could do. But in court, Alex's composure hardened into something else. A mother's fury, a sister's grief turned to truth. She faced the man who had taken everything from them and said, "You stalked, hunted, and preyed on our defenseless Rhiannon." Her voice didn't shake. Every word cut through the courtroom like glass. The family spoke of how their lives will never be the same. Birthdays, Christmas mornings, school runs, each one now marked by her absence. In Walsall, a candlelight vigil was held in her memory. Friends, neighbors, and co-workers gathered outside the park and hotel, the place where Rhiannon spent her last night alive. They left flowers, cards, and notes filled with words she'd never read. One card read, "You didn't deserve this, Rhi. You'll always be our sunshine." Another, "For your little boy, may he always know how much you were loved." Rhiannon's mother said justice, no matter how strong, could never be enough, because no sentence, no verdict, can replace a daughter's voice, or fill the space she left behind. She said, "He took her life, and with it, he took ours too." Rhiannon Whyte was 27 years old, a mother, a daughter, a sister, and now, a memory her family will carry for the rest of their lives. Her family say justice will never be enough, because no sentence can bring her home. The final chapter of this trial was not just about a verdict. It was about truth and the exposure of deception. When the jury declared Majikadunmi Femi Majek guilty of murder, the courtroom fell silent. But as sentencing approached, another disturbing detail emerged. He had claimed to be just 19 years old, a young man newly arrived in the UK. But police investigations, aided by immigration and medical records, proved he was in fact 27. The lie was deliberate, a calculated attempt to manipulate the system, to appear younger, more vulnerable, perhaps to gain sympathy, perhaps to face a lighter sentence. The judge, Mrs. Justice Tipples, postponed sentencing to confirm his true age. It was a rare and sobering moment, a reflection of how deceit had shadowed every part of this case, from the night of the attack to the courtroom itself. When the truth was confirmed, that Majek was 27, the weight of justice could finally fall. In her closing remarks, Justice Tipples said his actions were, quote, "a brutal, cowardly, and senseless attack on a defenseless woman." She told him that the CCTV evidence, the forensic trail, and his complete lack of remorse left no doubt of his guilt. Outside the courtroom, Detective Chief Inspector Paul Atwell of West Midlands Police spoke directly to the press. He said, "This was a brutal, cowardly, and unprovoked attack. Majikadunmi has shown no remorse for what he did." His voice carried the exhaustion of a man who had seen too much violence, but also the quiet pride of knowing justice had prevailed. The Crown Prosecution Service issued its own statement that same day. Prosecutor Michelle Healy KC called the crime one of pure predation, a man waiting for opportunity, and a woman who simply wanted to get home safely. The CPS spokesperson added, "Rhiannon should have come home safely. He robbed her of her future, her family, and her child of a mother." In that moment, the words carried more than legal weight. They echoed through a nation still trying to understand how this could have happened. Across the courtroom, Rhiannon's mother, Siobhan, sat holding a framed photo of her daughter. When the sentence was read, life imprisonment, with a minimum term that ensures he will likely die behind bars, she closed her eyes. Tears fell, but she did not move. The man who took her daughter's life would never walk free again. But even that, she later said, could never feel like victory. She told reporters quietly outside the court, "He will never understand the damage he's done. No sentence can bring my daughter home." From the hotel to the station platform to the courtroom, the evidence had told its story. DNA, CCTV, eyewitnesses, each thread weaving together a truth too painful to ignore. And as the blue lights faded into the night, the people who loved Rhiannon Whyte were left with only one small comfort: that justice at least had spoken. Her killer will spend the rest of his life behind bars. In the quiet that followed the trial, the world moved on, but her family could not. Rhiannon Whyte's name became more than a headline. It became a symbol of innocence taken, of a system that failed to protect her, and of a family's strength in the face of unbearable loss. She was 27 years old, a hotel worker, a single mother, and the kind of person, her friends said, who could make you laugh even on your worst day. In tributes shared online, her family described her as quirky, selfless, and full of love. Her sister Alex wrote, "She was always the one to lift everyone else up. Now we have to find a way to live without her." Days after the sentencing, the people of Walsall gathered at Biscott Stadium Station, the very place where her life was stolen, to light candles in her memory. Friends placed flowers beneath the shelter where she had fallen. Strangers stopped on their way home to stand in silence. And her son, only 5 years old, was too young to understand why the world was crying for his mother. Her story sparked conversations across the UK, about women's safety, about asylum procedures, and about how evil can sometimes hide behind the face of someone we barely notice. Because Rhiannon didn't walk through a dark alley. She didn't take a reckless risk. She simply finished her shift and waited for her train home. She did everything right, and still she never made it back. Her mother, Siobhan, said in a public statement, "We want her remembered not for how she died, but for how she lived, for the laughter, the kindness, the love she gave everyone around her." In Walsall, a local charity organized a memorial fund in her name to support victims of violence and single mothers in crisis. They called it Rhiannon's Light, because even in her absence, her story continues to guide others out of the dark. She was a mother, a daughter, a friend, a light that should never have been extinguished. And as her family continues to fight in her name, for justice, for reform, for awareness, they remind the world that Rhiannon's story isn't just one of tragedy. It's a warning and a legacy, because sometimes evil doesn't come with a warning. It watches, it waits, and then it strikes, in the silence of an ordinary night. She was a mother, a friend, a light, and her family continues to make sure her light never fades. What do you think drove dntruecrimeuk to commit such a senseless act? Was it pure evil, or something deeper we'll never understand? If Rhiannon's story moved you, share it. Because every time her name is spoken, every time her story is told, she lives on.